Hello and good morning, my creative friends. This is Dr. Minette Riordan, and this is Painting in Your PJs with Minette, where we are exploring visual journaling and all things life, love, and art. And this month I am working my way through a beautiful list of creative prompts, and you can find a link to the complete list to those prompts in the description of this video over on my Teachable. There's 22 prompts, and I realize that since I'm only going live every couple of days that, you might not, I was not going to make it through the end. So I did some journaling over the weekend and started, working through some of the other prompts, and I'm going to come back this week when it's nice and quiet and I have some time to really work on some of these things, to work on some of those questions. Haven't even finished this page up. It's been a fun and really busy few days since I saw you last. So I'm bouncing ahead in my own list a couple of days, and my prompt for today is, make sure I read it right because it's such a good prompt. What do you want to explore and clarify? So my prompt is, what do you want to explore and clarify? And starting this week on Painting in Your PJs, I will be going live at 7 a.m. instead of 6:30 a.m. I was grateful for that today. We went last night to pick our daughter up at the airport, who's home for the holidays for a couple of weeks. Yay! And we didn't get home till 1 a.m. Her flight was late. So this is my first cup of coffee. I am literally just waking up, rolling out of bed and rolling down to paint with all of you. So I am getting started a little bit later and recognizing that I need a little more time in the morning. So we're going to try 7 a.m. for this week and see how that goes. And normally I'm down here and kind of prepared for where I want to go, but I don't really have an idea today. And so I thought I would just do some writing here for a minute, and after I do some writing, then I will also check in, and I'm going to add some collage, and then I'll paint over the collage with some acrylics. But I don't know really what I'm going to do, and the beauty of that is that the question is, what do I want to clarify? If I can spell, and explore. And I'm just using a Crayola marker again. I tried that last week and really loved how it popped through to the surface. So I'm going to continue to play with these Crayola markers. And I'm feeling like when I think about exploring and clarifying, it feels kind of mappy, right? And there's just got to be this sense of exploration, and the journey has to start somewhere, right? The journey has to start somewhere. And so I'm just thinking about this journey ahead, and some of the things that I want to explore and clarify always are around, how can I live a more radiant and vibrant life? And this is one of the questions that we're working on in the Radiant Retreat. It is not too late to join me on January 8th for the Radiant Retreat. The link is in the description. The link is in the description to join me for the Radiant Retreat. I always end up drawing funny little critters. Isn't that funny? Even without attention. Look at the intention. In just my doodles, always end up drawing these playful, fun little critters. So when I think about what do I want to explore and clarify, and I'm thinking about how do I want to have a more radiant life, and I'm thinking about my 6 pillars that we talked about already a little bit. The one that I am hoping to get some deep reflection time about this week is deep work. Deep work. And there's a beautiful book by Cal Newport called Deep Work, about how do we carve out time for our most important work. And then that asks the question for me of what is my most important work? Which always leads me to questions around, am I living my purpose? And I can definitely say that right now, today, let me get some paper in here, I feel more aligned and intentional in my work life. And yet sometimes the form, I don't know what form that wants to take. And right now I have actually some great forms, but then when I have the forms, you know, I don't necessarily have a clear plan. So it's like, okay, there's places that I want to get to. Clearly there's some creatures, maybe it's a monster, maybe it's a guide that are going to join me on the journey. Oh, now it looks like a funny little fox. You know, there needs to be places for rest along my journey. And I love creating abstract maps like this because all I know is that I'm starting here and the rest doesn't matter, right? All I know is that I want to explore and I want to clarify. And what is it that I want to clarify? I always want to clarify my plans. I want to clarify my purpose. And inside of me, there's this need to like have this clear path out in front of me, a clear path out in front of me. But a path and exploration don't always go together. Sometimes we have to go off the path to seek the adventure, go off the path to seek the adventure. But one of the things that I want to clarify and explore is, what is it like to live in winter? How am I going to continue to get outside in nature? Do I have the right gear and the things that are needed for that to get outside and enjoy? It is 13 degrees this morning. It's a little chilly for a walk. So I've been exploring dance as a pillar of a radiant life for me and moving my body in the house in different ways, whereas when the weather's warm, all I want to do is be outside. So I want to continue to explore the area around me and enjoy life, right? And so all these questions keep coming to me around what do I want to explore and clarify. And I put purpose in the middle because purpose feels like something that's always evolving and not something that's ever just clear or the same, and there's not a word to describe that. I'm always wanting to clarify and explore my creative voice. How is that evolving? Why do I create? In fact, it's interesting, I got asked to do we need some whiskers, do a presentation at the end of next year about why do we make? And I think that's such a great question. If you look throughout history, humans have been making things and building things and making things beautiful, especially since the beginning of time, since the first cave paintings and who knows what before that, right? That we never even saw. So those are just some of the things that are on my mind this morning as I'm thinking about what do I want to explore and clarify. And if you're joining me live, please stop in and say hello. Let me know you're here. I know I'm on at a little bit different time today. Definitely feeling a little slow and sleepy this morning. And I'm going to come in right on top of this, I think with some matte medium or maybe even some clear gesso, because maybe I want to keep some of these marks going. And I forgot, nope, I have water. All right. I'm going to see what happens when I just put a little bit of clear gesso right over the top, because I want to just keep some of that green, maybe make sure that it's going to show through all the way to the end. Let's see. I got my brayer that I love all cleaned up. And that gesso, also remember, I'm working on this thin paper. If you're just watching me, I'm working in a handmade journal. A couple of weeks ago, I showed how I created this journal. And I'm hoping it's going to bleed a little bit because I love how that looks when it bleeds a little bit. And the brayer is creating kind of an interesting texture, but this is just a, you know, it's a heavyweight copy paper, but it's definitely not, you know, nice mixed media paper. You can see the edges are curling up there. And so I have to do things to increase the integrity of the paper so that it will take layers and the mixed media the way I want it to. So I'm starting here with some clear gesso, and then I'm going to come in and add some bits of collage, and then we're going to see where we're going to go next, because isn't this the beauty and the journey of explore and clarify? Explore and clarify is I just have to step on the path, right? I just have to step on the path and see where that path is going to take me. All right, and then let that get a little bit dry. It doesn't need to be super dry. And I'm going to grab some bits of collage here. You're going to see all the messiness this morning as I get going. So I love these big plastic jewel cases, are brilliant for collage. Bits and keeping things in pieces. Definitely looking for bright. This was a class, I think, from Andrea Chebelou, and I love these scribbly faces. So maybe those faces are going to go in. It's also one of Andrea's beautiful pages of marks. Huh. Isn't this interesting? Do you ever just go through your box of collage materials and go, huh, isn't that interesting? There's some kind of a checklist. Oh, it's on the back of these sweet little elephants. Thinking and creating, moral values, the arts, preparation for reading. I'm wondering, this was from some sort of children's book, and if some of the exercises were being defined using this. So I really dig that, but I don't want to give up my sweet little elephant. So I may make a photocopy of this some other time. Kind of liking these faces. Wow, look at this dove. This dove might become my focal point. And it's interesting, it looks like a UN dove. It has all the flags on it. And these faces, I think we can do something interesting. And in my little library that I had in California, somebody left a book of a big, beautiful picture book from the Olympics, and tucked inside the book were all these stamps from old Olympics. So again, there's like some sort of travel theme that's going with my explore here. So maybe we'll pull out, this is a postcard with the torch, with the Olympic torch. That's super cool. I haven't ever used any of these. And look at this one, actually with the sailboats on it. 13 cents that postcard was. It kind of gives you from 1983, so it tells you how long ago that was. And so there's this theme of exploring, and the map that I drew is a lot about movement. So I'm going to pull that one out as well. These are just some old painty index cards that would make some nice backgrounds, and a little bit of book pages. I was looking for these the other day, these polka dotted napkins. This is the list of emotions words that we're working on in the Creative Stretch, Andrea and I's free program. Love the colors of that. This was a fun project where we drew on fabric and created some really nice collage material out of fabric, but I don't want that bumpiness today. Some old gel prints and make some nice background. But I'm kind of liking blues today. These are some fun colors here. Irresistible. Look at this funny poem that I pulled from a book. But I loved the big words on the colored page. And I always probably end up pulling a little bit more than I need. Some more script. Okay, so I'm going to stop because it's so fun to just sit here, and I've got literally stacks and stacks of collage material in here, and I know I don't need all of that for these two little pages. So I'm going to start with what I've pulled. And I wasn't really expecting to find a focal point right away. I thought that would be a few layers of exploration away. So let's see if we can just start. And I love just tearing collage paper. I'm just going to put a few bits down in different pieces. I don't care if I'm covering up the backgrounds or not. So this one might need a pair of scissors, and this might need to stay until the end. Again, this is all about explore and clarify. And this book was printed on these funny colored pages too. A woman walking with a grocery bag. I guess when something's free, I just can't let it be. So it's an interesting thing to think about. And I'm going to put some collage material right smack in the center of my pages here as well, because I have been needing to bolster up these pages on this paper. So you can use any paper to make a journal, and there's ways to, look at that, make that journal stronger as well. I really love this piece. But I think I'm wanting more words on here. I found an old book of Rumi wisdom at a used bookstore. So again, you're seeing my messy process of how I love approaching visual journaling, just in a very abstract way. Love this little graphic medallion there, and that black and white, loving the sort of combination of words, just a little bit of color. I don't think I'm going to want these sort of, well, that one kind of matches. What if I put that whole thing right there? That's kind of interesting. That one doesn't match. And I'm really loving this. So I think this postcard is going to have a note written on the back of it and get attached to the page later. And this gorgeous dove is going to be the focal point. And it's interesting that I'm seeking the connection as I'm sitting here thinking and talking about this between explore and what do I want to explore and clarify. And the dove is a symbol of peace. So is there a message here around how can I bring more peace into my life in the coming months? And also this is an end of year reflection journal, and my mind instantly wanted to already start thinking ahead as we get to the end of the year. Today is Monday, December 19th. And if I want to explore and clarify backwards, there's memories to explore. There's certainly been a hectic path. And I'm feeling myself as I'm going through these reflection questions, wanting to quickly move ahead. Hi, Diego. You gonna come say hi? My big boy, coming in for his morning snuggles. And definitely, I've been exploring my creative voice, different aspects of myself. So there's something about these pages. I love this one where she's kind of looking off into the distance in the future. And I'm just trying to get a sense of where these are going to go on the page. Oh, I like her a lot. I love these sort of reflective images. This one feels like definitely that sort of intrepid explorer ready to set out on an adventure. And when we are thinking about looking back, looking forward, I think it's valuable to think about what's the space between. Good morning, Blanca. Good morning. So glad you're here. If anyone else is joining us live, please say good morning. But I think it's really important to explore the space between, are we dwelling what happened in the past? Are we glossing over it and trying to go ahead too soon? Are we taking some time to kind of really look at and acknowledge what happened and take that forward? So a lot of that has to do with exploring and clarifying, So I'm kind of happy with these collage bits. So I'm going to grab my matte medium here and start putting these down. Oh, it's stuck this morning. And I'm going to grab my handy dandy catalyst wedge. So we had a fun, super busy few days. So my brother and sister-in-law and my nephew were here for the holidays. And we had a adult weekend out, which was fun, that we haven't done in a while. And so the four of us, my nephew went up and stayed with his grandparents, and the four of us went to a concert in Denver in a huge arena. I haven't been to a concert in an arena like that in over a decade, probably, to see an artist named Nathaniel Rateliff, who was very fun, and the opening act was Marcus Mumford, who is the lead singer of Mumford and Sons and has been touring with a solo album, and they were amazing experiences. I love when I tear out words and I'm not really paying attention to what they say, and then they turn out to be something really interesting. This one says, if we listen closely to the words of the wise and we act on them, perhaps we ourselves will one day be counted among their rank, that our own words will serve to guide others. What a beautiful quote for this page about explore and clarify. So I think I'm actually going to save that to go on a little bit later. I have enough other collage bits on here, and have that come out into maybe an upper layer. And so maybe we'll stick these words down here instead. I like to put lots of matte medium down. I love collage, but I want that collage to lay really flat. So I don't want it to be super bumpy and have lots of texture. I think that was one of my challenges when I first started layering. Like, I always loved the look of mini layered pieces with, you know, fabric, but I learned that because what I really love is the painting part, that I want to be a little bit more careful with my collage bits to create the flat surface, and that I can always add more texture on at the end as well. And I love this white. I still seeing the green, still seeing some of those funny eyes behind. And again, just trying to get a little color and texture, and also to just build up the strength of this page a little bit so they're not falling apart. This is an index card, so it's a little bit thicker. I want to make sure I get enough matte medium on there so that it lays nice and flat. Again, I just love the fierceness of these sketchy images. And I don't need to be able to read most of the words, so a lot of times I'll put them going in different directions, upside down, so then I don't get caught up in what the words say. I'm just sort of planting the words in the collage, but I don't need to be able to read them. I really wish that matte medium had a nice squirt top. I like the more the Liquitex bottles because then it's not just having to pour it out quite so much. So the question for today is, what do you want to explore and clarify? And this is a fun question for both looking back and looking ahead. So if you look back, is there anything that you want to explore, or any experience or knowing that you want to clarify? So it's a great question to think about this time of year. I think I want a few little more wordy bits on here. Let's see, going back into my treasure box here. Just bring in a few more pieces. Now my other cat's coming to help. She loves paper. There's a big piece of newsprint here on the floor from where I cleaned off the table, and she just thinks it's a toy. She will shred it. She will dive into it. I love that green is just kind of soaking all the way through the layers, coming through to the surface from that original map that I drew. All right, I think I have enough collage down on here. And definitely I'm in that messy middle, right? That place of the messy middle, which exploring and clarifying is all about messy middles, all about messy middles. Get that matte medium off my catalyst wedge pretty quickly here. So if you're joining me this morning, thank you. Happy to see you live. Happy to have you watching the replay. This is Painting in Your PJs with Minette. We have an all new time this week. I'll be going live at 7 a.m., giving that a try. So we went to this concert on Friday night, and it was such an amazing experience. And my husband and I are both early to bed, early to rise, so we didn't get to bed till after midnight that night, which is super fun. And then we had fun exploring Union Station in Denver, eating yummy food, going to multiple bookshops, and hanging out with family. It was a beautiful weekend, and it was one of those clarity around, we need more of this. We need more adventures. We need to not be such homebodies. We need to get out and play. Reminders of how much we do enjoy music and exploring. And then yesterday, Sunday, we had a lovely dinner with our son, and then my beautiful daughter came home from university and her plane was late, so I didn't get to bed till 1 a.m. So this lady is going to be dragging a little bit today, but I'm happy to be down here creating and starting my day in this way. I'm definitely looking forward to a family-filled week and a quiet work week this week, but I will be here in the mornings creating with all of you. Okay, so I'm going to take some white gesso and I'm going to cover all this up again and just start to make this layer feel all like one layer instead of all these disparate parts. So I'm just going to come in with that brayer again because I really like the texture that the brayer creates. And I don't want all of the what's behind, so that's a thick layer, but that's okay. I'll come back and take some of that off. This is more what I'm going for here. It's what I get from putting the gesso right on the page instead of on my palette. Again, messy middle, exploring and clarifying. And I know all those layers are there. I know each of those pieces have that little bit of meaning for me personally. And I still want to come in. So I have those nice layers of matte medium. I have those nice layers underneath of clear gesso and matte medium. So I can really push things. Oops, I want to pull her off. Back to previous layers. Back to previous layers. So I've got some interesting things going on here. I have a nice messy page. I always love these messy pages. Sometimes I do get a little bit stuck at a place like this and have to figure out, where do I want to go next? Where do I want to go next? So I'm going to move all these collage bits out of the way. And one of the things that I want to be really exploring this week in connection, and I'm just wiping that gesso on an old index card here that'll get used for something later. And I talked a little bit about it in one of my videos last week, but it's this idea of the 6 pillars of a radiant life. And when I'm reflecting back about what worked, what didn't work, what do I want next, what do I want more of and less of, and I also start to cast my gaze forward to what do I want to create going forward, I'm being very present to these 6 pillars: rest, reflection, play, connection, work, and experience. And over the last few days, doing some journaling and thinking, I'm looking forward to having some time actually to do some deep work around my professional life and my purpose in my creative work. I'm also looking forward to some deep rest, and I can't do deep work without time for deep reflection and deep play. My connection bucket got really filled this weekend, which was beautiful, with lots of family. Family is very, very important to me. And it's been a year of deep experience, a lot of emotions, right? A lot of emotions and feelings and experiences out in the world. And so I think it's really important to stay present as I'm reflecting back around these pillars. And these 6 pillars are what I teach in the Radiant Retreat, which is happening on January 8th. There's still plenty of time to sign up, and the link is in the description of this video. And if you keep watching, I'm going to have a really special offer to join me at a discounted rate for the Radiant Retreat a little bit later this week. So you can watch for that coupon that will be coming. And so as I'm thinking about these pillars, what does it have to do with explore and clarify, and where I'm going with this page? So there's a lot of movement. I started by hand drawing a map. And when I think about exploring, there's a lot of movement. So there's a little dancing to the past and exploring where I've been, and then there's a lot of movement forward. Thank you so much, Kay. It was so great to have you there. I so appreciate you being there, joining us, and I'm glad you're here this morning. Good morning. And those that are joining live, do you have any thoughts about this idea of what do you want to explore and clarify? Whether you're looking back or looking ahead, does it feel like there's something that needs a little more clarity? So clarity is a word that I walk very closely with and that keeps me anchored. When I don't have clarity about where I'm going on my adventure, I can get overwhelmed pretty easily or sidetracked pretty easily. I'm just going to cut out this fun dove here. Such a beautiful symbol of the season. A symbol of when I think about what's important, I think about, I don't think about, like I want to be happy all the time. My husband and I talk about this, there's moments of joy and happiness, but I think, how I want to feel calm, and I want to feel at peace. I want to feel at peace in my heart, in my work, and that requires clarity and knowing where I'm going on my personal path. And it has a lot to do with being anchored to my purpose. I'm working with so many private clients right now around this idea of purpose and identity. Who am I? Why do I make art? What's the purpose in this for me? And they're such great questions. So I'm liking this dove. I think I'm going to cut that off, and I'll hand draw his olive branch. I also like this sun here, but I might paint that as well. Let's see. So being able to just cut the dove out and put it down on the page will give me an idea to kind of figure out where I'm going, I will hold on to that little branch. So clearly it's going to need a blue background is what that's telling me. And I still am loving this feeling of movement, right? And so I'm thinking, I love just putting paint on the page in a very abstract way. I'm not usually a perfectionist, but that little notch of blue there is just driving me crazy. I'm going to trim that off. Alrighty, so just noticing, right? If this is going to be my focal point. Hi, Barbara. Good morning. Merry Christmas to you too. Are you nice and warm and toasty over there in Florida? Great to see you here. All right, so let's get some paint. This is still wet, and I'm just going to continue to paint right over the top of it. Again, you've seen me just really kind of working with these same colors throughout this journal, just staying really in primary colors, and that doesn't feel like it's going to change much. And I've started making a list of paints. I'm getting to the bottom of a lot of my paints, and I'm going to go do some paint shopping over the holidays, which will be definitely exciting. My daughter's home. We'll have fun doing that together. So I'm thinking again about this energy and feeling. That's probably way too much paint, so I'll just put that on my palette. I'll use it for something else. About movement, right? About movement. And peace is often, for me, something that I aspire to more, something that I seek, not just for myself, but for the world, which hasn't felt like a very peaceful place in a lot of ways. So it's so interesting to visually explore this prompt of what do I want to explore and clarify? I want to explore and clarify, how am I feeling? How am I feeling within? How am I feeling about what's happening in the world? And you know, my husband and I talk about this sometimes, about world peace doesn't seem like something that's attainable in our lifetime, and so it can be easy to just say it's not possible. And I believe it's only possible if we start by creating peace within our own hearts. But just definitely feeling that sense of desire for peace and movement on the adventure for, yeah, this one's just about dead. Let's see if we can get a little bit out of here. For peace and calm. And again, asking myself those questions, exploring those 6 pillars of a radiant life. And in order to go deep into rest, reflection, play, connection, work, and experience, we have to start with peace in our hearts and peace around us. I'd love to hear some thoughts this morning from anyone that's joining. Our prompt today is, what do you want to explore and clarify? What do you want to explore and clarify as we come to our last, today's the 19th, you know, we have another, 2 weeks left in the year to finish up this end of year reflection journal and to start to think about, what do we want to be different, right? It's one of the questions that I often ask is, what do I want to be different coming into the new year? Barbara, 61 degrees and sunny, cozy with coffee. Well, it is 14 degrees and it looks like it's going to be a sunny day here as well. You can see the light coming in the window behind me over there. But it is not warm yet. I am still toasty inside in my favorite fuzzy PJs, my favorite painty, ratty old sweatshirt, my house slippers, and a cup of coffee as well. And I'm happy to have you here playing. So again, I'm just creating this sense of movement on the page. Explore, when I think about explore, it's adventure and movement. And when I think about the dove, I think about the dove moving through the air and flying, right? So I'm creating this just background of movement and remembering that these pages don't have to be complex. Just looking for some other blues here. Trying to use up so many paints here at the end of the year, which is fun. And it's a challenge to just use what I have and not just go restock on all my favorites. And then I'm looking at this going, what else does this need? What else does this need? And I'm wanting to bring in some yellow of the light of that sunshine. So anyone else, I would love to hear any thoughts. What do you want to explore and clarify? Whether you're looking forward, looking backwards, just cleaning off my brush. So when I'm working with acrylics, I like to work with a very dry brush, and I like to vary my brush strokes and use different paint brushes because it varies the marks on the page, creates more visual interest. And also, I don't want this page to get too wet, right? So, and I like the texture of the thicker paint. So I will use quite a few different brushes to make sure that my brush is really dry, which does require a little bit more clean up, but I'm okay with that. And in my visual journaling club class last week, one of the students was talking about how much she preferred watercolor to acrylics because the cleanup was so much easier. And I hadn't really thought about that. I guess I don't mind the cleanup that much. So bringing in just some of the light of the sun that was on that original image that I cut out. And that sunlight is just radiant, right? And it just radiates out through our entire life. And I can spend hours and days. I love doing whole big canvases where I'm just moving the paint around. And this for me is such an intuitive and energetic process. Noticing where my energy is, what are the colors that I'm drawn to, what are the movements of my hand that I'm drawn to. So again, creating this like energetic space of movement, of exploration, of light that's coming in. Without light, it's hard for me to find peace, light in my heart. I also love being outside on beautiful, bright, sunny days. Those blues and yellows made a beautiful green over there on my page. So again, I'm just going to stop and notice what's going on here. And again, I've been focused on these primary colors and thinking about this flag, or this dove, which was cut out from some children's book that I gathered from somewhere, or, oh no, this one looks like maybe it was an ad in a magazine for like the United Nations or UNICEF or one of those organizations. And I love all the different flags of the different countries and this sort of interconnectedness of the world, which is what's required for peace, is connection, deep connection, deep connection. Thank you, Barbara. I love that. World peace definitely has to start from within. If I'm not peaceful, how can I see peace for others? And what do you want to explore? It's a great question just to sit with, and it's not always an easy answer. So at this stage, I've pretty much lost most of that background of collage. And yet, if I hadn't started with that, the page wouldn't be as interesting, right? The page wouldn't be as interesting. So I've got this page quite wet now, and yet I'm thinking about my primary colors. I'm thinking about the flag that was on the dove's wing, or all the flags, and I think I'm gonna have to bring in a little bit of red. So I just grabbed the first one I grabbed. Is a little just inexpensive Artist Loft. I tried some of these Artist Loft paints and don't love them. They're pretty transparent, And because of that, they're great for backgrounds like this or things that, I don't care about as much. I don't want to get paint on my postcard either. I'm going to come in with a smaller brush. And when I think about flags, right, and I think about what do I want to explore and how I want to travel, and the world's flags are primarily the primary colors plus green. Right? The Dutch have orange in their flags, but almost the whole world over, there's some combination of the primary blues, yellows, reds, and some green, which are all the colors connected to earth. Blue is also connected to loyalty. Red is connected to passion, but also blood, right? The thing that connects us all. So this is feeling like this beautiful, energetic, intuitive piece of just feeling. Red's associated with the heart. I love that we now live in Loveland, Colorado. There's beautiful painted hearts everywhere around town. And they have a lot of fun and do a lot of things related to the fact that we live in Loveland. So again, just loving the swirling and the magic of the energy. These kind of pages are so fun to create. I love that there's, places where light is flowing in. This feels like a pool of deep reflection over here, a place to really slow down. Clean off my brush. So acrylic paint is not great for our water system, so I try to get as much paint off of those as I can. I'm feeling like it's going to need a little bit of white to come back in over the top again, but first I'll take a piece of scratch paper. So this is just one of those pages where I have been putting extra paint, and I'm just pulling some of the paint off the page because it's very wet, which is kind of fun. And then I'm creating this other collage paper. Interesting that red really pulled right off of there. So it faded that red to the background quite a bit. So I'm loving the movement and the energy of this. And then my question is that going to be too busy for my dove? But I don't think so, because that dove is so white. And in fact, I've gotten some paint on here, so I might come in with some white paint and just touch that dove up a little bit. And then I loved this postcard from the 1983 Olympics. The Olympics are another experience that really is all about peace and the interconnection, although there's a lot of competition there as well. And I think that this is going to go down here, and I'm going to have a note about the prompt on the back page of this. So I'm thinking I need to get this page really dry, and then we're going to add our dove. He's getting way too much paint on him. In my little space, I'm trying to find a place to put him. So I am going to put myself on mute for just a second and work on getting this a little bit drier. And while I'm doing that, if anyone else has any thoughts, or if you've just joined us live here in the chat, say good morning and hello, and let me know where you're joining from. I know Kay's in Albuquerque, Barbara's in Florida. Blanca, if you're still here, where do you live? So the challenge with these kind of paintings and wanting to work towards finishing a page is it takes a long time for them to dry. So this one's definitely not dry. I got this one dry-ish, I think. So you could see me also scraping some of that paint back because it tended to get on here very thick. And so if I were doing this on canvas, I would definitely wait for layers to dry in between. I'm gonna get a little bit of that paint off of there. Come back in again. Where'd my dove go? Get some matte medium on this dove. Gonna put that matte medium on. Oops, that's clear gesso. Okay, well that will work here for a minute. Silly Minette. This is gonna dry clear, so apparently I'm just gonna put that clear gesso right over the top of this. All the bottles look alike, and I have my gesso and my matte medium and my two gessos actually all sitting right here in front of me. And let's just get a little bit of that matte medium down on there. I was watching a video by another artist recently, and it was interesting because she didn't like the smoothness of the matte medium, so she was adding other things to it or using clear gesso to get a different texture on the page. And so it's one of those interesting things to think about is, you know, what kind of texture do you like? Because I like to paint and draw over the top of things, and I come in with a lot of time with Posca markers, that for me, I love the smoothness that I can get with that matte medium over the surface. So part of finding your creative voice is about materials. And this is turning blue because in LA County, wonderful, Blanca, the page wasn't 100% dry, and when you add the matte medium and the clear gesso, it can activate those other paints as well. But it's all right, because I am going to come in and whiten up this dove with some white paint. So I'm in an unfinished basement, so eventually we'll figure out what we want to do down here, and we'll finish up our basement. We've been in the house just over, I don't know, 6 or 7 months now, and yeah, that's what he needed, was just to be brightened up so he really stands out on the page. And remember the other day I talked about painting over, oh, that was in my other class, my visual journaling club class, using other people's images like this and painting over the top of them to really make them your own. Also helps you become just a better painter. But so we're in this unfinished basement, and I can hear my cats chasing their toys or each other. All I hear are these little footprints scurrying overhead. All right, I'll come back in and touch up that eye. And I think I'm going to outline him in black marker as well to make him stand out a little bit more. Or maybe even my black Stabilo, because I can see it on the table here in front of me. And I love this page. It's looking pretty fun here. Let's see. So I'm going to actually dip my Stabilo right into my water to activate it a little bit before I get started. So I've been going for almost an hour now. I'm probably going to linger a little bit. I love that I have nothing I have to do today except a dentist appointment later this afternoon, so I'm probably just going to keep playing here in the studio for a while. I like to keep these to about an hour, but I'm going to go a little bit longer on this one. Again, I'm sort of enjoying the sort of childlike exploration of this, of just playing with the paint, moving things around, not trying to be too particular about any of this. Just wanting to make sure that this dove here is really standing out on the page. I'm going to come back in and I'm going to draw in the olive branch that we often see that dove carrying as it's flying along. And I'm liking the black on here and feeling like this page needs a little more black. I don't know if the pencil is going to do it, if I need to come in with some paint, but just create even a little more contrast on the page, especially in this little corner of sort of just reflection and maybe this dove just being carried on these air currents. Loving where this is going. It's making me super, super happy. And it's love that this postcard that I found with this stamp from the Olympics is the same color as these flags over here. So what this needs, and I want this to be nice and dry before I do this. So I think this is going to get tucked in here, taped in as a flip up so I can still see what's happening, but I want to write myself a note about what do I want to explore and clarify. So I'll do that a little bit later, and then I'll just take some washi tape, and I'm thinking it's going to flip open this way. And when I do things like that, I'm like, is there another little image that wants to go on here? And then I'm thinking about that phrase that I found, and maybe this phrase about wisdom that I found. It's like, do I want that to go on the postcard? Ooh, I think I do. I kind of like the way that looks. Again, this is such an intuitive process. Thank you, Blanca. Yeah, it's just whenever you piece down an image, it's great to experiment with painting over it to make it your own. Paint over it to make it your own. He needs a bigger beak there. I did not paint over the flags. I love those flags. I'm definitely going to want some of that black on this page over here. So again, I'm just dipping. This is a Stabilo Marks All pencil. It's one of my favorite tools in the studio. It will dry permanent. I can also just use it dry and then add water over the top of it, and it will activate with the water and do all kinds of cool magical things. And adding black to a piece is often the thing that will help sort of finish it off, pull it together, create that contrast and drama that makes a page visually appealing and interesting. And like I said, I can just sit here for days and just make these marks and play on the page. And I love where this page has taken me, right? I feel like these pages take me on a journey that I am following the intuition from the map I drew at the beginning all the way through to this moment of I'm really happy with where it is and where it's gone now. And this is the point where I'm like, okay, I want to keep going. I want to finish it, but I know what it needs now is just to sit and dry completely. But maybe even before I do that, let's see, I have this little tiny brush here. And what if I see, I told you I just can't stop playing, right? I just love playing with the paint. And I've got all this white on my palette. So I'm like, okay, I need to use that up. And what if I come in and just continue to brighten this up? Peace for me is something that feels bright, right? Feels like there's lots of light, just like, excuse me, the whiteness of that dove. Just following that path of explore and clarify. Following that path of explore and clarify. And you noticed I used quite a few different brushes to just create different sizes of marks around the page. And this is a fun type of painting to do if you're ever just feeling stuck or thinking, oh, I don't know what I want to paint, or I just need to get some color down on the background. I have a big blank canvas that's been staring at me over on my easel for a couple of weeks now, and I'm excited to have some time to work a little bit bigger. And I want to work in this journal, but we also are going to figure out ways that I can be painting on canvas with you guys and showing you how I do some of my work bigger. But for this month, we're going to be playing here. Okay, Minette, so now I need to stop. It feels busy, it feels happy. The dove is taming things down. And then once I get this postcard in here about if we listen closely to the words of the wise and we act on them, perhaps we ourselves will one day be counted among the rank. Then our own words will serve to guide others. If I had a wish for something for myself, is that my words and my art will serve to guide others towards more peace, more joy, and more creativity in their own lives as well. So I think that's it for today as I let this go and dry. I will be back tomorrow at 7 a.m. Mountain Time, 7 a.m. Mountain Time. And the prompt I'm going to focus on tomorrow is what are some common emotions that I feel? So I think this is going to be a good one to play with as I look at towards the end of the year and think about emotionally, what am I feeling? I talked about a little bit of that today, but exploring and clarifying is going to lead this on the journey to thinking about how do I want to feel? How did I feel this year? And how do I want to feel the same or different as I go forward into 2023? So thank you for joining me for Painting in Your PJs with Minette. This is Dr. Minette Riordan wishing you a beautiful creative day, my friends. Thank you so much for joining me. Look forward to seeing you all soon. Awesome, Barbara. Be sure to tag me on Facebook or Instagram, and I'd love to see what you're creating as well. You can find me on Instagram at Dr. Minette Riordan. Bye, everyone. Have a beautiful day.